Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Eric. Can you hear us?
Yes. Good morning.
Okay. I do have members that are still joining virtually,
Okay.
so we'll work on getting them promoted, but I do believe you have a quorum present.
Okay. Yeah. If we have a quorum, I'll start because it'll take me a little bit to read all the
Yes,
all the
I'm
stuff.
sorry, we do give you a bit of a lengthy script.
Yes.
Good morning, y'all. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Excellent. Happy Thursday.
Yes. Okay. Good morning. I'd like to call to order the March 4th, 2021 meeting of the TPA's Bicycle Trailways Pedestrian Advisory Committee pursuant to the TPA Emergency Order 2021-01. The Palm Beach TPA is conducting this meeting virtually using the Zoom webinar platform. The TPA selected this platform because it does not require the public to purchase or download any additional software or equipment to attend this meeting. Aside from the Zoom webinar platform that the participants will use to attend remotely, the public will have no discernible difference in their ability to watch the meeting from that of someone physically attending the meeting. Instruction to join this virtual meeting, as well as contact information for a TPA staff member to assist you, are provided in the published meeting agenda. Please note that although some members of the BTPAC are attending the meeting in person, committee members will be appearing at today's meeting remotely, either via webcam or telephone. Additionally, scheduled presenters and the BTPAC liaison will also be appearing via webcam or telephone. Staff, please call the roll so that we can establish a quorum.
So before I call the roll, I want to remind members present in person to unmute your microphones by hitting the button on the base, and please bring it close enough so that the virtual members can hear you and the recording can pick it up. And those present virtually, if you can please unmute yourselves as well. And alternates, please state your name if you're attending on behalf of a BTPAC representative. So Sally Channon. Here. Eric Ferguson.
Here.
Ted Goodenough.
Here.
Michael Howe.
David Willock for Michael Howe.
Jean Matthews. Here. Yash Nagal. Yash, I wasn't able to get your verbal attendance. I do show that he is here, Mr. Chair. I think he's...
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Fadi Nassar.
Neil for Fadi.
Michael Owens.
Here.
Craig Pinder.
Here.
Ryan Harding.
Here.
John Roach.
Here.
Brian Ruscher.
Here.
Joanne Scaria.
Here.
Stephanie Thoburn.
Garrett Watson here for Stephanie Thoburn.
Joanna Peluso. Larry Wallace. And I still have that the Boca Raton Bicycle Club still has a vacancy, so they will be marked absent. We have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Item B, staff modifications to the agenda. Staff, are there any modifications to the agenda?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I have
Items.
a proposed modification to the agenda.
Okay.
That is Sally.
Okay.
I'd like to add an agenda item to discuss the timing of the presentation of BitPAC's recommendation on scoring and review of TPA goals, policies, and strategies as related to trails. I feel that we really need to add to provide the TPA governing board with an adequate amount of time to fully consider our request. So I ask that we add an agenda item for discussion, and the sooner that comes up, the better.
So, Chair, if you want to either add that as item 3A and move everything down, or just put it at the bottom as item 3C, and then I will need a second to Sally's request.
Okay. Do we have any items today with outside I don't think we, with
No,
outside
all of our
presenters.
items are staff presentations.
Okay, so that's, okay, so we're not,
This should go under 2.
You're asking for an action item. Okay, I'm sorry. I misunderstood that as an information item. I'm sorry, Chair. So this
Okay.
would become action item 2B. But again, I
Okay.
need a second to her motion, and then we can
Okay.
add this as 2B.
Is there a second to add a 2B? Sorry.
Michael Owens has seconded.
I'll let Michael.
Okay, so I have Michael Owens as a second, Sally with the motion, Michael as the second, Michael Owens, I'm sorry, as the second. And then Chair, we can just take a verbal vote for this. We don't need a roll call.
Okay. So call the, you want to call it, Margie?
If you just want to say all those in favor and then
All those in
opposed.
favor? Say
Aye.
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 all those opposed, or all those opposed? Everyone's unmuted, just double checking.
Yes.
Okay, seeing that all were in favor, so we'll modify the agenda to, and that, what was that going to be again? I just want to make my notes.
It would be
2B.
item 2B.
So we're adding a 2B.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so now we are on to item C, motion to approve minutes for February 4th, 2020. Are there any changes to the minutes?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have a correction for the minutes.
Okay, Sally, what is your correction?
This is on item 2B, the recommended approval of the BitPac Ad Hoc Committee's proposed modifications to the Transportation Alternatives Program scoring system. The important things I think to correct here, I actually made the motion, not Michael Owens. It was seconded by Jean. It was twice amended, with the amender being Stephanie Thorburn. And that amendment was accepted by the maker and the seconders. There was one nay vote, to my recollection, Josh Nagel. And John Roach had, at that point, had to absent himself from the meeting just due to time constraints. Also, as will come up in my discussion, this was not part of the discussion to present our request to the TPA board for consideration in October 2021 for the 2022 TA program scoring, as very clearly reflected in the recorded audio. The intent is to have these changes effective for 2022, and October 2021 is normally when the workshop is done. So that whole part needs to be stricken.
Mr. Chair, just to note, I will make the adjustments and I can send it all out to all the members and we can defer this approval until the next meeting. Just because this is a lot of changes that would need to be made. So you can defer this item to the next meeting. I will note on Sally's request for the modifications to the agenda or to the motion. We only list the last motion because in a lot of the committees, there's a lot of back and forth that goes on for a motion. So generally, we only list the last motion as it was finalized, unless there was votes taken on multiple motions. But I will make sure that what's in the final draft that I provide in the next agenda has the corrected motion language, the correct first, seconder, and the voting.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So Chair, as staff, I would request that we defer this item until the next meeting so that I have time to make modifications and we can provide it to the full BT pack.
Okay, is any other committee members have changes to the minutes? Okay.
I have John Roach with his hand raised.
Okay, yeah, let's make sure we get all the changes. John?
The only change was reflected by Sally, but I just wanted to make sure it was out there that I had to leave the meeting before the vote actually occurred. I was a part of the discussion early on. So I should be marked as absent under that vote.
Okay, I will make sure that change is reflected as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So, Sally, I will ask if you can make a motion to defer it, and I will need a seconder, and then, you can just do a verbal vote, Eric.
Okay.
Yeah, I move to defer approval of the minutes so that they can be corrected per my comments, and we can be considered at the next meeting.
Brian Rusher, second.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion to defer the minutes passes unanimously. 2D, general public comments and public comments on agenda items. I will summarize our public comment procedures for this virtual meeting. Written comments may be submitted online at the website provided in the agenda. Verbal comments may be made by a virtual attendee using the raise hand feature in the Zoom platform. Lastly, a verbal and a written comment may be provided by an in-person attendee submitting a comment card available at the welcome table. Staff, have any general comments been received?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Item E, comments from the chair and member comments. I think the one comment for staff, maybe there were some, I missed the last meeting, but I'm just wondering if it would be good to have a refresher on sunshine for everyone at some point. I think the TPA did that in the past. That
Sure. We can actually bring that as an information item at an upcoming meeting.
Yeah, I think that would be useful. The only other thing I have is we're working on our ADA, updating our ADA transition plan. If anyone has to work on that too, I'd be happy to share what I've learned. So we're getting close to doing that, wrapping that up. Any other members have any comments for the committee?
Sorry,
Margaret,
I muted myself. I do have Brian Rusha with his hand raised.
Okay, Brian.
Great. Oh, thank you. I have just a couple of updates. Delray Beach is celebrating Florida Bike Month. It's an event we try to celebrate every year, and we are doing a social media campaign and partnering with Let's Move Palm Beach County to log minutes. So Delray Beach has already logged 30,000 minutes under this challenge. We're up to about 500 minutes under the Florida Bike Month team. So if anybody is interested and is a Delray Beach resident, they can very easily register and log under letsmovepbc.com. That's one of the ways that we're trying to encourage biking this month in a socially distanced manner. I also serve on the board of directors for a nonprofit called Connect West Palm Beach. Every Saturday this month, we are hosting a Bike Your City event focused in West Palm Beach, where we will be biking on different facilities throughout the city of West Palm. The first ride is this weekend. Lincoln Park will start at 1 p.m., weather pending, and we'll ride some protected bike lanes that are kind of best known secrets or best kept secrets in the city. It's a really nice facility and infrastructure. It's a really easy 5-mile out and back ride. If it's going to be postponed, it'll be till that Sunday. And then I also agree that we need a refresher on sunshine. As I was walking here with Rafael Clemente, we passed and we started talking about this committee, and I feel like it's time we get out in the sunshine. And I'm going to propose that at one of the next meetings for the BitPack that we actually do a bike or walk as part of a downtown initiative. Mr. Clemente, who's the director for the Downtown Development Authority, was willing to lead such an effort. It would be similar to the route he did for the Safe Street Summit. I think it'd be a good socially distanced in-person outdoor event that the TPA could host, just as a proposal and putting it out there for BitPack to consider. So thank you.
I do have Ted with his hand raised, followed by Sally.
Okay, Ted.
Just a personal note, I do need to leave just before 11. I just wanted to put that on the record.
Okay. And then you said Sally was next, I
Would-
believe.
we do have two bike events that are just strictly cycling events that will be hosting during Bike Month. I think those have gone on the calendar. They haven't gone on the calendar yet. They're coming. And then a third one, which is it's actually, we call it a bike, hike, and splash, because this is a more endurance sort of thing for people who don't mind getting wet and muddy, where we are going to like mountain bike out to an area and then hike into a spot where we will be looking at some of the wildlife that concentrates in wetlands during the dry season. So we'll actually be netting and pulling things out, putting them in a tank and taking a look at them. All of our events are on Eventbrite. We're still rather strongly restricting participation. So if you're interested in those, look at it's Eventbrite/ERM, whatever we can provide it. It'll be on the Bike Month calendar.
Okay, Margie, any other raised hands?
No, Mr. Chair.
And can we go back to Brian suggested a outdoor meeting? I believe, Brian, could you clarify that?
Yes, so
Yeah.
just a quick suggestion is that we as a bit pack have been cooped up inside and indoors for quite some time. And I think it's always nice to have something to remind ourselves of facilities and infrastructure that we're out there and supporting and providing and advocating for our communities. So I felt like it would be wise to maybe do like a combination walking and biking, or some other tour of an area. I think downtown West Palm is probably prime, since the TPA offices are here, and there's a good number of facilities that could be seen in a fairly short amount of time within our meeting window. So that would be my suggestion, is to host a meeting almost in lieu of a typical, agenda meeting, where we start, get together, have comments, and then we go on a quick tour of downtown facilities and give everybody an idea of what's out there.
Yeah, I guess staff, I'm interested in that. It's what would we need to make that happen, I guess. And I know you might need some time to facilitate that, but no, we're putting you on the spot, but
It's okay. So while we can't have an outdoor meeting necessarily, we could do an activity as part of a meeting. So we could convene our meeting, end at 10:30 one day, and then do a 30-minute walking tour afterwards for those who stay and join. But that wouldn't be able to be in place of a committee meeting. But like I said, we could end early, have a shorter agenda, and then do something afterwards.
okay. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Would you want a motion or something, or is that enough to
I do
schedule
have
it? I guess?
Sally with her hand raised.
Okay. Yep, Sally. I'm sorry about
Microphone,
that.
sorry.
Just to say that we could leave this in the hands of Margie and Alyssa, because I know they have directed me to a couple of really good coffee shops and nice places for lunch, easy walking distance from this office.
So Chair, you can just direct staff to coordinate this, and
Okay.
Alyssa will coordinate it and inform all the BT PAC members. I do have Jean with her hand raised.
Okay, Jean.
Could we invite Raphael to be a tour guide also, so he can kind of inform us what's going on in West Palm Beach and the redevelopment?
That was the intent, and he volunteered to do so. I told him I would told him I would told him that he would be doing it. So he agreed it's a good idea.
And we know he's a big bike ped advocate. So yeah, it would be great for him to give us a tour.
Okay. Yeah, staff, let's set up the tour after the meeting, after one of our meetings, and I guess coordinate with Rafael Clemente. Any other raised hands on comments from members?
Jean does have her hand raised again.
Oh, sorry, Jean.
It would be better to do it sooner than later. April is such a nice month. If we do it in June, it's kind of hot. So
Yeah.
let's shoot for next month. Something to look forward to. Something outside.
I agree. That's
Okay, I will definitely coordinate that.
okay. All right, no more raised hands. So I want to miss anybody.
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Item F, BTPAC Liaison Report. Alyssa, please, Alyssa will review the liaison report.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. It's great to see everyone here in person and virtually. We have some exciting things to cover, so I'll get started. So I would like to start with a TPA staff update. We are excited to welcome Robin Prabmansky, as the TPA Executive Secretary and Alora Farr as the TPA's Procurement and Grants Coordinator. We look forward to their contributions as we work collaboratively to advance the TPA's mission and vision. We have Robin in here now, so I can make her wave. So also March is Florida Bike Month, which I know we will be discussing a couple other times today. The TPA is encouraging local municipalities and partner agencies to host events and to promote bicycling and bicycle safety, as well as participate in the TPA's Florida Bike Month events. For details, please visit our website, walkbikepalmbeach.org. The Strategic Highway Safety Program, FDOT is requesting public comments for their Strategic Highway Safety Program, SHSP. The draft plan is posted and available for public comments through March 10th, 2021. So that's next Wednesday, I believe. For more information, you can visit their website, fdot.gov/safety. The March TPA Governing Board meeting is going to take place on March 18th, 2021 at 9 a.m., both in person and virtually. To view the agenda packet and meeting details, please visit our website, palmbeachtpa.org/board. The Complete Streets Act of 2021, Senator Edward Markey and Congressman Steve Cohen have reintroduced the Complete Streets Act of 2019. This is a bill that promotes safer and more accessible street design across the United States. And for more information, visit their website of smartgrowthamerica.org/the Complete Streets Act is back. So for 2021 Infrastructure for Rebuilding America, or the INFRA grant, this is a discretionary grant program that funds transportation projects of national and regional significance with a focus on climate change and environmental justice. The deadline to apply for this is March 19th, 2021, and more information is available on the website transportation.gov/buildamerica/financing. The 2021 AARP Community Challenge is back. The AARP Community Challenge provides small grants to fund quick action projects that can help communities become more livable for people of all ages. The deadline to apply for this funding is April 14th, and you can visit their website, aarp.org/community challenge for more information. High visibility enforcement funding is still available through FDOT. This is funding that is offered to local enforcement agencies for funding contracts for high visibility enforcement to improve pedestrian and bicycle safety. Applications are accepted on a rolling basis, and more information is available at alerttodayflorida.com/HVE. And lastly, TPA funding programs applications. There were 5 existing local initiative projects requesting $13 million and 5 new local initiatives projects requesting $17.25 million in federal funds, and 5 transportation alternatives applications requesting a total of $4.43 million in federal funds were submitted. The total funds available are roughly $20 million for local initiatives and $3.1 million for transportation alternatives. In addition, 6 state road modification or SRM project requests have been compiled. Project proposals submitted are included in the following page. The final draft project list will be included in the fiscal year 23 through 27 list of priority projects presented for adoption in July. And briefly to go through the funding applications, on the screen you see the 5 that were brought over from last year for local initiatives, Palm-Tran, City of Lake Worth Beach, Village of Wellington, actually 2 for the Village of Wellington and Village of Royal Palm Beach. And then 5 new ones, which were the City of West Palm Beach, Indian Trails Improvement District, Palm Beach, or 2 for Palm Beach County and 1 for South Florida Regional Transportation Authority, I'm sorry, SFRTI. And then the 5 for transportation alternatives were from the City of Boca Raton, the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Indian Trails Improvement District, Town of North Palm Beach, and the Village of Wellington. And then, of course, the state road modifications programs were through the City of Boca Raton, 3 TPA resurfacing supplemental requests, and then 2 other projects that were, one was along Forest Hill and the other one was along Congress Ave. And that is it.
Okay.
Chair, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I do have Sally with, Jean with her hand raised.
Do
So-
we ask? Okay, on the
Yeah, can I
presentation,
ask a
yep.
question? So we just got the new submittals of the TE applications, and these are the 5 that we got. And when
Yes.
will we meet to rank them?
That is going to be, I don't have the date in front of me right now, but that is the summer, one of the meetings.
Okay, thank you. And you know what, can you make those available on your website so that we can go out and drive them? They've done it in the past, because we like to review the applications before we score them.
Yeah, they'll be on our website once we have vetted them and sent them to FD.
Once you have,
We review them first. So, and then we send them over to FDOT for vetting, and we will get them on the website as soon as we're able to.
all right, good, yeah, because it's very helpful when you rank them if you drive them.
Chair, I do have Ryan with his hand raised, and then just for the record, I don't have any public comments on this item.
Yeah, it was okay. Ryan, you recognized?
Just a small note, the Village of Wellington is the C8 canal, not the C9. Just small note. Thank you.
Okay, Margie, any other raised hands?
No, Chair.
Okay. All right. Any committee members have any comments or questions on the report? Any further questions? If no, if not, we'll move on to item 2A, motion to recommend endorsement of the 2021 legislative and policy positions. Andrew Ulier, TPA Deputy Director of Program Development, will present this item.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
So yes, I'll be presenting the 2021 legislative priorities. Sorry. With these draft priorities, really we're looking for just an open discussion overall on these and getting your thoughts that we can send to the board for adoption. These are our larger, high-level priorities. So, we can discuss the intricacies in more detail if you'd like, but really these were meant to be the higher level. So how they play out when it gets into the implementation of it might be a bit too detailed to put into these priorities. So to restate our mission and vision, to collaboratively plan, prioritize, and fund the transportation system and a safe, efficient, connected, and multimodal transportation system. So what we're doing today is really the collaborative portion of this. And what we're really looking for is if these are valuable and worth going for priorities, that's what we're trying to show in this list. So ones that are we unified, collaboratively want as our legislative priorities. So why do this? The first is to grow local consensus on future mobility vision. So all of us going towards the same unified vision. Within that, we're looking to balance projects and land development patterns. So not only tackling it from a transportation investment standpoint, but also how are we choosing to develop our future for land. And then also considering timely pursuit of additional revenue sources to to meet the needs of our transportation investments in the future. Next is to advance these priorities in the Southeast Florida vision into the state legislature, so impacting changes to those policies that may be needed. And then lastly, to influence at the federal level. And this year is an important one because our transportation reauthorization bill, the previous one we had, the Fixing America's Surface Transportation Act, expires this September 30th, 2021. That was actually already a one-year extension. So Congress is working towards new legislation and new transportation bill. So having the ability to be a part of that discussion and having a unified vision of and priorities is beneficial for them while they draft that type of legislation. So what prior TPA actions are these legislative priorities based on? So although they're all shown together in this document for the first time together, they actually did originate from other types of policies and resolutions that we've adopted throughout a few years from the TPA and then also our partner agencies. The first one being our 2045 long-range transportation plan that set the goals, objectives, and targets for the TPA, and also introduced a high-capacity transit network. We also include priorities from the Vision Zero Action Plan. And the Vision Zero Action Plan set targets of 0 fatalities and serious injuries on our roadways. And in that plan as well, there are specific actions related to legislative, educational, and roadway design actions. There is also the Southeast Florida Regional Transportation Plan, which set a regional mobility vision between Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach through the 3 MPOs. And in that also created consensus regional policies, which were provided to the TPA and they were endorsed by the TPA Governing Board. And the last one I wanted to mention was the MPOAC, so the Metropolitan Planning Organization Advisory Council. And this is the state's collective group of all the MPOs, which the TPA is an MPO within the state. And they have also produced legislative priorities related to sustainable revenue, flexible funds, and technology and innovation. So what you're seeing in this document, this one pager for legislative priorities, is really a culmination of a lot of the policies that originated in the documents I just mentioned. So I'll go through the 4 sections we have based off of the goals of the TPA. And the first one being safe. So many of the safe ones originated from the Vision Zero Action Plan. And I'm summarizing them in the slide. The first is to change state or federal law to expand distracted driving laws, obey crossing guards, automate speed enforcement, and require helmets. Then also include safety tech on new vehicles. The next is to enhance education for providing annual safe walk bike curriculum, require driver's ed in high schools, and requirement to pass tests of pedestrians, bicycle, and motorcycle laws to obtain or renew a driver's license. And then lastly, to revise roadway design standards to be more based on context classification of the roadway and the surrounding area, and to use target speeds instead of existing speeds to set those design standards. And lastly, to allow installation of safe pedestrian crossing treatments at mid-block and unsignalized locations. So providing more flexibility within those design standards to allow those types of treatments. The next is efficient. Provide funding to advance autonomous, connected, and electric vehicles and infrastructure. And also to allow MPOs within large urbanized areas to directly receive federal transportation funds or to swap federal and state funds to maximize efficient delivery of transportation products on local facilities. So I'm going to take a second to explain what that means because it is a long sentence there. So with that legislative priority, that's really getting at how the current process that we have for our locals to administer projects with federal funds, we're looking to provide more of a streamlined and efficient process for that to make it easier for locals to administer projects with federal funds or to deliver products overall through the TPA more quickly and efficiently. And so that first one there, the first part of that, for allow MPOs within large urbanized areas to directly receive federal transportation funds, that one's related more towards large MPOs being able to directly receive those federal dollars. So right now, we do prioritize, and that would not change. We prioritize those surface transportation funds, such as the ones we have for local initiatives and transportation alternatives, which you saw today, and you all know, you all are familiar with prioritizing. We would still prioritize that, but the second part of that is once they're prioritized, they are then administered mostly by locals with FDOT oversight of those funds, and they're the ones that you work with for those funds. So instead of FDOT administering that federal process, it would be maybe a MPO to administer that process instead, and hopefully make it more efficient. The second part of this is the swap federal and state funds to maximize efficient delivery of transportation products. So what that means is that there are some states out there, instead of just having the federal process of attached to your transportation product as a local agency, instead, some states have chosen to work with their departments of transportation to give them all of their federal funds, and then in return receive state funds for those dollars. So in that case, when we have these local initiative of transportation alternatives projects, it would be state funding that we're putting towards those projects instead of federal funds. So you don't federalize the project. It's a common in other states, and FDOT hasn't moved towards that here. That does take a lot of legislative changes, because right now you can only use state funds on state roadways. That's something that MPOs are considering here in the state. So yes, I know that was a difficult one to sort of dive into, and there's a lot nested in this statement, so I wanted to explain that in more detail. Connected. Promote complementary land use patterns around existing and future high capacity transit routes, and use existing maintenance funding and pursue additional funding to reconstruct roadways with enhanced pedestrian, bicycle, and transit facilities, especially near high capacity transit hubs. So both of those related to high capacity investments for transit. And lastly, multimodal. Advanced regionally connected high capacity transit system to support anticipated growth and long-term mobility. Increased flexibility with existing state transportation programs to allow the funding of high capacity transit investments and supporting infrastructure, and seek additional funding sources at all levels to build, operate, and maintain high capacity transit. So the last ones speak a lot to high capacity transit, where that develops, and then how are we going to fund that type of network, both with existing funding and to make it more flexible, and then also seeking additional funding sources at all levels. And so these are really have been originated at a larger level in the region. So many of the statements you see here were being developed through our regional partners with Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach, that were also supported later on by our governing board here at the TPA. And that is my summary for you all. So if you have any questions, I'd love to be of assistance.
Okay. Margie, go ahead.
Yes, I'm sorry. I do have Jean that is, I do want to remind you to unmute your microphone so that the rest of the committee can hear. I do have several hands raised, Chair, but I want to note for the record, there are no public comments on this item.
Okay, yeah, just good. I was going to ask if there were public comments first. All right, so Margie, who had their hand raised first?
So I have Garrett, Jean, and then Neil.
Okay, Garrett?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Excellent, Andrew. Thanks so much for the information. There's really a lot of great stuff in there. I just had a quick question, no suggestions for changes or anything, but on number 3 under safe, I heard you say kind of separately that you were looking at kind of balancing projects and land development patterns, and then number 6 obviously ties that into kind of a connected overall system. But in the context of number 3, what kind of context classifications are you looking at? Kind of sort of, I guess, beyond the obvious, are there any particular metrics or like does future land use come into play or existing development pattern, things like that.
And we're gonna pull up that slide again too, just so everyone can be on the same page.
Great.
So FDOT has developed a context classification, which they're slowly moving towards. And I guess I'm not sure if we've had a presentation of that to our committees before, but they do have a context classification, and it takes into, I believe, the existing surrounding development pattern. And that's what it's based on. So with this one, I don't know if we've gotten to details about it should be based on directly just existing development patterns or into the future. And on top of that, the context classifications do have, I believe, density standards and types of land use mixes in that. So there are some nested things that are more, I guess, metrics. Unfortunately, I don't have a great understanding of it in detail, but it is sort of like what you're envisioning when you think about different types of context of development, when it comes to like going from urban and then transecting into more rural development patterns.
Excellent. And you said FDOT has kind of a context classification somewhere that they've developed and are using?
Correct.
Perfect. Yes. Yeah. So that's great. I'm a fan of keeping the language broad because that gives you the maximum flexibility to kind of do what works and what's necessary. So no real changes. I just wanted to make sure I understood it. Thank you.
So Jean.
Okay, Jean.
Okay, I am so excited about the state swap out of funds for the federal funds to not federalize these projects. The Parks and Recreation Department gets a lot of these HCD block grants, and they're federalized and they drive up the cost incredibly. You have to apply with Davis Bacon WageWorks. You have to interview the employees every week or every 3 days. You have to do a bulletin board. There's like a dozen notices. They have to go in the right order. It's all American products, which is fine, except for sometimes we have to ship off for nails and wait 6 weeks. When we have a federalized project, it literally is 30 to 50% more than when you are using a state funds. And this is going to just allow projects to get done cheaper, faster, and get a better product. So this is like absolutely tremendous. The other thing is, I do zoning review for unincorporated Palm Beach County for Parks and Rec to make sure that they meet the recreation standards required by code. And we are looking at land use and development, we're finding so many infill developments. I mean, right now there's a 5-story building proposed in a neighborhood that was built in the 40s and 50s. And we're just seeing a lot of that. And I know all the Delray seeing a lot of it, there's a lot of development pressure. So trying to figure out the best way to provide transportation, bike, and the land use based upon road capacity is going to be huge. That's a tremendous effort.
It's okay, bye.
Okay.
Chair, if I can respond, just to provide some more context
Sure.
as well.
Sure, Andrew.
Those are good points. We have at our MPOAC that state group I mentioned. USF has a Center for Urban Transportation Research, and they provided a presentation on the fund swapping and the states on that. So there are some presentations out there if you wanted to get more information on that. And then it was brought up yesterday at our Citizens Advisory Committee about the land use and development patterns, and the way that TPA is approaching it from just at the TPA level is we do have these high capacity transit corridors that we've identified in our long range transportation plan, and we're tackling those at the corridor level, so the corridor studies. So the multimodal group, Valerie's team, and Alyssa and James here are working on those with the county and the municipalities along right now Okeechobee Boulevard, going from Wellington Mall up State Road 7 down to downtown West Palm Beach. And so with that, we are speaking with the local municipalities and also considering the land uses along those the future development patterns. So that's how we're tackling it locally. And we also have those transit-oriented development plans that are studies that we've been doing around tri-rail locations. So just wanted to give more insight on a little bit of that.
Thank you, Andrew.
So I have Neil followed by Michael Owens.
Okay, Neil.
I just want to mention that Palm Beach County Engineering will be voting against this action item because it does not believe that dedicating traffic lanes to high-capacity transit is justified by land uses and the potential ridership and may result in additional congestion.
I didn't hear all that. Could you repeat it, please? This is Brian. Thank you, Neil.
Neil, did you hear Brian? She may not have heard.
No, say it again.
I didn't catch everything. Could you say that again, please?
Sure. Palm Beach County Engineering will be voting against this action item because they do not believe that dedicating traffic lanes to high-capacity transit is justified by land uses and the potential ridership and may result in additional congestion.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
Neil,
so
any other? Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have Michael Owens followed by David Willock.
Okay. Michael, you're recognized.
Yes. Andrew, thank you for the presentation. I was particularly interested in the bus rapid transit and the bus rapid transit light portions. I was assuming this, and I know it's early, but I assume this would kind of be, would complement, I guess, Tri-Rail and maybe, help, broaden access to Tri-Rail and maybe going east, west, north, south on arterials, et cetera. But would the bus rapid transit be a part of say Palm Tran, or would that be a separate entity? I know it's early. I was just kind of curious.
Thank you, Michael. Yes, I can answer that. Palm Tran is part of the study process for these corridors as well. I believe that they're actually the one spearheading a lot of the transit part of it. And we're working closely with them. So they have work orders out at the same time that we do on this corridor study. So I think it is, when it comes to like the bus system, it's most likely going to be Palm Tran. And then I also wanted to point out, on the screen here, we are showing, we have statements for light rail transit. On the left side, we have light rail transit, bus rapid transit, and BRT light as those examples on the screen. But the priorities themselves reference high capacity transit. So the way the form that takes in the end is really to be studied. So we haven't made specific references directly to each corridor and what their intended final result are going to be for the type of transit system we put out there, if any. So that's why we left it at high capacity transit. I know this has been this ongoing discussion that we had during our long range transportation plan process as well. And so that's why we stayed with a more general wording with high capacity transit.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Margie.
David Willock followed by Sally.
Okay, David.
Okay, I just had a couple comments. Number 5, where it talks about the swap of funds. Yesterday, I watched the TAC meeting and they said that TA funds weren't swappable because of state law. Actually, they started off saying LI, and then Nick clarified and said TA funds weren't. I was wondering if you could comment on it.
They both are, so the local initiatives and the transportation alternatives funding are both housed within the same surface transportation block grant called SCBG federal funding. So they basically are both following the same federal policies for procurement and all the other requirements. So they should, they're both the same, but right now, if I remember correctly, yesterday's discussion and what you're referencing is right now at the state level, we can't do a swap like that because state funds cannot be spent off the state system at all. So that's why in the current system, that would have to change as well. It would have to be state funds can be spent off the state system. And then we'd also need to have some agreements on funding swaps.
Would you do that ahead of time before you organize this, or would you try and do that and then get the state to change the rules or the feds to change the rules?
I believe it'd probably happen around the same time.
Okay. All right. I also had a comment about number 8. Yesterday, TAC changed around number 8, recommendation number 8, and added efficient transit system because there were concerns about empty trains and empty buses, especially with high capacity in number 8, really alluding to, essentially trains or probably the bus route that you were talking about by Wellington. But would anybody else be interested in adding and efficiency to number 8? Because it just seemed like a good idea yesterday at TAC. They were essentially asking the transit agencies to look at the bus and train routes and make sure that there aren't empty routes out there that are, just driving around not picking up anybody. And the term high capacity was talked about quite a bit. I believe high capacity was kind of a sticking point for engineering. Maybe if we took out high capacity out of number 8, engineering could vote for this. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. Okay, that's all I had to say.
Okay, it was Sally next, I believe, Marty.
Yes.
Okay, Sally.
Yes, I guess my question is for Neil. Can you point me to which one of these items that you're thinking addresses this thing of dedicated lanes? Because I actually didn't get that from the presentation or just reading through the list that's in our backup document. So is it on this page that's up right now, this bus rapid transit? Or if you could elucidate for me the objection so I understand it better. Like which one of these 10 items is specifically raising the concern about, and I'm thinking, are you talking about like I-95 or the Turnpike, or about, say, Okeechobee Boulevard or some, if you could explain that to me a little better so I understand.
No, I'll have to direct that to Fadi. I was just told to make that statement as an alternate. So I'll let him know that, you guys want more information.
Anything else, Sally?
I do have another
Sure.
hand raised. Sally, were you good or?
I guess that this is an action item asking for our support, and I would feel more comfortable, particularly considering this is a fellow county agency raising this objection, if I understood specifically what the objection is and what's being, like, what would be pushed or lobbied for legislatively, so I can understand exactly where that conflict lies.
Chair, do you mind? This is Andrew again. Do you mind if I respond?
Yeah, and Andrew, I think
Sure.
maybe if
I
you could,
think
go ahead.
in Neil's statement at the beginning, it sort of highlighted in a way that, Margie, can you minimize my screen on that so we can see the full light rail transit? And Neil, could you read out the first part of your statement again? I think it referenced dedicated, taken away lanes.
Okay, I'm just reading this from an email. We do not believe that dedicating traffic lanes to high-capacity transit is justified.
Thank you. Yes, so I guess obviously there's more to more details to develop through that, but when we look at, when they say dedicated traffic lanes, that's usually what you're talking about with light rail transit and bus rapid transit. Like that last one, BRT Light, that says primarily operates in mixed traffic, meaning they would be using existing lanes. So obviously, like what we're talking about here, we're just using the word high capacity transit, and we mean by that all three of those things. So how we develop that in the future is still to be determined. So that's why we didn't specifically state light rail or bus rapid transit or BRT, whether it's in dedicated lanes or not. We just wanted to stick to a statement as maintain high capacity transit. But I believe what the county's major concern in that statement is using dedicated lanes that are already used for traffic, using those for bus facilities or some type of other transit facility.
And Chair, I do have Yash with his hand raised as well.
Okay. Did Sally, do you have anything additional, or was just that one?
No, that was really my question, because I know that in Miami-Dade County, there's a, basically from the Dadeland Mall, I think it runs all the way to Homestead. There's a separate bus thing that you get on, and it's a quick route to get off. You can get off at the Metro Rail, hop on this bus, and bingo, be down in the Homestead area really quickly. And it has a dedicated lane, but it's actually separated. It's like a, physically separated from the auto traffic with its own little, station. So it's kind of running almost like a rail, only they're buses.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Yash.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the empty bus concept or misconception, however you want to say it. So basically, all transit agencies, they kind of have a ridership model, and then they have a coverage model. Ridership model is basically the one where you put a lot of your frequency, and ridership comes as a result of that frequent route. And then you have coverage models, which have low frequencies, but they're in parts of low density areas. And generally, these are the ones that people see with less people on them. So when we go and when we do corridor studies to find out how can we provide, bus rapid transit or BRT Light or any of these, we go and we analyze high ridership routes. And we do corridor studies on high ridership routes like Route 43, which is on Okeechobee, or US 1, or Route 1. We'll do our corridor studies on those routes. We did not go and analyze the routes that are our coverage routes, which have low ridership. And basically, those are the ones that you're seeing with nobody on them. So just wanted to clear that point out. So, there's no misconception that we're going and doing corridor studies on routes that are low in ridership. All transit agencies kind of have to be a balance of ridership routes and coverage routes. And that's how we end up with both of these types of routes. So that's all I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you, Yash. Margie, any other?
I have David with his hand raised.
Okay, David.
Just one quick comment. Andrew, since we're talking a lot about engineering's concerns, is there any way you could outline what engineering said yesterday at the TAC meeting?
Unfortunately, I can't at the top of my head. I'd have to go back and look at notes on that.
Okay, yeah, because there was a significant discussion that went on for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. All right, no, I understand. There was a lot talked about. I kind of mentioned the high points, so.
Okay, David, any additional?
No, I thought maybe there was like a prepared summary or something. If there isn't, don't worry about it.
Margie, who's any additional?
I don't see any other hands raised.
Okay.
I don't know if you have comments, Chair.
Andrew, could you go back to the number 1, the earlier slide?
Sure, I'll
This
navigate to that.
safe. I'm looking at the appendix. I see, I believe I see automated speed enforcement. Is that okay? It's on the slide. I'm glad to see that. I really, in my role, I deal a lot with a lot of neighborhood traffic concerns or speeding on some of the roads, and there really aren't engineering solutions. So I'm glad to see that. Did have a question on 6, also the complementary land use patterns. I kind of in general, I think a lot of these I support at a high level. I guess it's in the details. Even going to the county's concerns, there are places where you could have high speed lanes that also are not purely dedicated bus lanes. They're also the express lanes, like on I-95, that seems to work well south, where it's cars pay and transit gets to use them. So I think it really a lot in the detail. But I had a question on 6 with the land use patterns. What would promote mean? Because I'm thinking in California, they've had issues where the state's kind of usurped home rule to require more density around transit stations. I was just wondering and you sort of have the NIMBY faction and the YIMBY, no in my backyard, yes in my backyard, and other parts of the country. And I was wondering what are we going to do with number 6 when we say promote?
That's a thought.
I know it's a lot I guess it's yeah. So
that's a very thought-provoking question. That is true. I mean, we have a lot of municipalities here with a lot of their own home rule. So it's really just working with all of them, and hopefully through the TPA and some of these other organizations that the cities are part of, we can go towards this unified vision. And so, like, once we establish where that transportation vision lies in the future, I think hopefully we can all be on board the same land use vision as well. So I think in the future it's gonna be a lot more details. Hopefully we can offer some carrots, with funding for those municipalities who want to come along with us. So as a whole, so yeah, it's gonna be a tough a lot of collaboration involved in that with a lot of municipalities.
Yeah. No, that's it. Go back. I'm really glad to see about the speed enforcement. I think that I've been in traveling overseas, and I was really impressed with how it the effectiveness of it. Okay, Margie, is there any other committee members have their hands raised?
Sally has her hand
Okay.
raised.
Okay, Sally.
Okay, I did want to explain that I'm not going to vote in favor of this, and this is because I have questions. I don't have any to the list of 10 that we were provided in our backup with a modification on that advanced or regionally connected efficient transit system. I don't have any problem with that. I do, as I mentioned, this is a fellow county agency. Obviously, we're not discussing this back and forth in advance of a meeting when we're going to vote on it. And I didn't listen in on the TAC discussion. So I don't, when I see this slide up there and then I see this part about dedicated lanes, I honestly don't know what the objection is. So since I don't understand that, I am not going to vote in support of going forward with this. But it's only for that reason. When I just look at what's written here under these 10, particularly if we put in there efficient transit system, I have no problem with any of that.
Chair, if I may, Brian does have his hand raised, but I did want to note for the committee, although I cannot provide a summary for you of what the TAC did or spoke about, I can note that they did pass this item. It was supported. The only 2 dissenting votes were from the town of Jupiter and Palm Beach County Engineering. However, 2 county agencies, 3, I always forget about airports, Palm Tran Planning and Airports did support this item. So just so that you are aware. And then Chair, I do have Brian with his hand raised.
Okay, Margie, on that, so the motion for the TAC was not amended. It was
They
as,
did amend it with the efficient, as noted by David, but it passed 21-2, and the only dissenting votes were the town of Jupiter and Palm Beach County Engineering.
okay. Can you can you clarify where they added the efficient? And
Sure,
then
I
we'll-
can pull that up on the screen, because I did prepare that just in case that was something, because David mentioned it, so if it is something that you want to make a motion about, I have it ready. That
Okay,
way
let's
everyone-
get Brian's, we'll let Brian speak, and then if no one else has it, I would like you to share what the TAC actually passed. Yeah.
I can't share what the tax
Oh.
passed, but I meant where David wanted the efficient
Oh, where
added
David,
in. Yes, I'll pull that up on the screen so you guys are aware where he's asking for that.
but so did the TAC pass?
It's the same thing,
So the TAC passed the same thing with only two,
dissenting votes.
to
Yes, the town
summarize,
of
who's-
Jupiter and Palm Beach County Engineering.
okay. Okay, Brian.
Thank you. I just wanted to submit a comment in relationship to the county's comments and plans. There are policies related to supportive transit land uses and how they can support one another and are complementary to one another. So transportation policy element 1.5I. 1, transit routes and adjacent land uses are concurrently planned and fixed to promote additional complementary development. So I feel like that in the spirit of that, a number of policies that the city of Delray Beach has it, and their recently adopted always a Delray comprehensive plan, I'd like to make the motion whenever we're ready for that.
Okay, Margie, any other committee members, hands raised?
I'm just making sure. Sally does have her hand raised.
Okay, Sally.
And I feel like I'm taking West Palm Beach's place here. We're only on the State Road 7 issue. Because really my only concern is here with, I know that it may have only been 2 entities that objected, but I really don't understand, because I don't see anything wrong with the 10. I do see where in the slide program as it's presented, where you start talking about dedicated lanes, and it's not clear what might be put forward. So I'm wondering if we can pass on to the TPA that our recommendation is that they give careful and detailed consideration to like what's on the left-hand side of these slides. Because I honestly, with the addition of the word efficient, what's written in our background, those number 10 points seem perfectly fine to me. So can I move that we recommend this with the additional recommendation to the TPA that there is some level of discomfort with the idea of legislatively, or promoting dedicated lanes when we don't know whether we're talking about decreasing existing right-of-way that's used for vehicles, or what level of road that might apply to.
So I'm sorry, Sally. I will need that clarified. So you're asking for the motion to recommend endorsement of the legislative policy as presented with an additional request?
As presented, including the addition of efficient under number 8.
Okay.
But include in there that we have concerns specifically with dedicated lanes, in not knowing whether that we're talking about taking currently at capacity lanes and dedicating them. And the Okeechobee corridor comes to mind because that's at a, whatever it is, constrained level of service already. And I can definitely see where there would be concerns about, for example, promoting something that would remove a lane out of action in that corridor. So what I would, I need to make it shorter. To add efficient under number 8, and then to additionally tell the TPA that we do have concerns about removal where dedicated bus lanes or light rail would occur, in terms of whether or not those lanes would come out of basically overcapacity roadways.
So
I'm sorry,
So-
Eric, I'm trying to write that up. And
I
it's
mean,
a
do
bit
we,
of a lengthy motion, so it's just taking me a minute.
yeah. Okay, when you're ready, we'll see if there's a second for that wording.
Okay, so I will share my screen.
Okay.
That way it's a little bit clear for everybody. And Sally, I can adjust this once you actually see it if it's a little bit. So the first item, the motion is to recommend endorsement of the 2021 legislative and policy positions with the following revisions. So for number 8, advance a regionally connected, high capacity, and we're adding the word efficient transit system to support anticipated growth and long-term mobility. The second request you said was to express concerns to the TPA board about where dedicated bus lanes or light rail would occur, whether the lanes would be taken from overcapacity roadways.
I think you basically have it. The weather should probably be if, as opposed to whether. If, let me see.
Okay, so you're good with this? I just want to read it again because
Yes, I
not
think,
everybody can see
yes,
the
I
screen.
think that
Okay.
does it. If you would read it again, please.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is a motion to recommend endorsement of the 2021 legislative and policy positions with the following revisions. A change number 8 to include the word efficient, so it would read advance a regionally connected, high capacity and efficient transit system to support anticipated growth and long-term mobility, and express concerns to the TPA board about where dedicated bus lanes or light rail would occur if the lanes would be taken from overcapacity roadways. So I had a motion by Sally, and I do need a second.
Is there a second?
Michael Owen, second.
Okay. Discussion. Is there any discussion on the item, Margie?
I don't see any hands raised, Mr. Chair, or I don't see any hands raised, Mr. Chair. If you're ready to do a roll call vote.
Okay, okay, we're sure, no discussion. Okay, we'll do a roll call. Call the roll.
So Sally Channon,
Aye.
Eric Ferguson,
Aye.
Ted Goodenough,
Aye.
David Willock,
No. Engineering's concerns, no.
Jean Matthews,
Aye.
Yash Nagal,
Yes.
Neil Wantz,
No.
Michael Owens,
Yes.
Craig Pinder,
Aye.
Ryan Harding, Ryan Harding,
Aye.
thank you. John Roach,
Aye.
Brian Rusher,
Aye.
Joanne Scaria,
Yes.
Garrett Watson,
Yes.
I still have Boca Raton Bicycle Club as vacant. Joanna Peluso.
Yes.
Okay, it passes with 2 against. Just to confirm, I had David Willock as opposed and Neil Wantz as opposed.
Okay. All right, so we added 2B, is that correct?
Correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay, can you repeat the title of the item? It was,
There wasn't
or
a
is it-
clear title for me of the item, but Sally did want to bring up the BT pack scoring that was previously discussed.
Okay. All right, who
Okay.
would like to speak first on it? Who do we?
I do have Sally.
Okay, Sally, recognized.
We passed, the BitPack passed at our February meeting, a recommendation for changes to the scoring sheet for transportation alternative projects to be effective for the 2022 cycle of applications. And for, because the strong opposition to staff was stated as being that our changes were not supported by the goals and the policies, the targets that are elucidated in the TPA's documents. There's a long-range transportation plan. There's a strategic plan that every year sets forth what the TPA hopes to accomplish during their fiscal year. There's performance measures, and the scoring sheet is meant to objectively score projects and prioritize them based on the priorities as set forth in the TPA's documents. An amendment was made by Stephanie and definitely accepted by me and by Jean, who seconded the motion. And that was that if this is the issue, the TPA governing board needs to elucidate for us on the committee, is there going to be any priority? Is there any room in the near future for any project that's not filling in the gaps in the sidewalks as shown on the map in the long-range transportation plan, or dealing with high crash zones as shown on the maps in the long-range transportation plan, or basically are the priorities such that those projects just need to wait until all these other things have been accomplished? I think we've seen here today that just about every month we deal with some item that's based on the goals and policies, and that it was very appropriate. Stephanie's amendment was very appropriate because that's really the issue. I'm an employee of one of the departments under the Board of County Commissioners. The rest of us are mostly employees of our respective agencies. We're not the ones to set policy, we're the ones to advise. I honestly don't want to spend more time looking at the scoring sheet and going through all of this if the TPA governing board thinks that those types of projects should not have any priority, any opportunity for funding until these other priorities are kind of done and dusted. The issue is that if they're going to change the goals and policies, if they're going to even look at those and determine, okay, really, are we missing? Do we have nothing? Should we have something? This can't go, this needs to go forward to them. The suggestion that they do this needs to go forward to them in a timely fashion. They generally look at a draft of their strategic plan in May. They adopt that plan in June for the start of the fiscal year in July. The workshops that are held to tell potential applicants, okay, here's how you're going to be scored, here's what the routine is, here's how you do your application. those occur in October. So initially I had asked TPA staff, because I didn't see the item on the TPA governing board agenda, February, the month that we had passed it. I was told it would be placed on March. I then received an email saying, no, it's going to go in April. So my question is, why? Why the delay? I feel very strongly that it is not fair to ask anybody that meets at best once a month to actually look and consider anything involving priorities or policies without allowing enough time. I mean, they may want to set up a committee. They may want to request a report coming back. You can't spring something like that on a group at the last minute and expect them to take action just based on our committee's recommendation to change a scoring sheet that their staff is clearly going to tell them is not supported at all by their goals and policies. So what we're really looking at, if this doesn't go forward, like now, at the March meeting, is a delay that's probably going to mean that our proposed changes would not be effective for the 2022 cycle, which really starts way back actually in September. But it'll be, now we're talking about the 2023. And we have been discussing and spending time on this scoring and why can't you bring in some sort of project? Should we be able to consider those type of projects? For literally for years, like going all the way back till 2017. So my question for staff is, please elucidate why this can't go to the TPA governing board in March. It's our job as BitPAC to advise the TPA governing board. And I frankly feel like we're being thwarted in carrying out our duty by staff simply not taking it forward. Why not take it forward?
Sure. So I will start off and say that the strategic plan is actually not entirely related to TA scoring, and that actually goes forward in July. And for clarity, the scoring system is adopted in October and the workshop follows immediately. Now, this is going to the board. It's planned to go in April. It was pushed from March, but just due to the heavy agenda already, we tend to typically lose board members at our board meetings after the 2-hour mark, and adding something like this onto the agenda for March was just going to be way too heavy. It's already very heavy. So for that reason, it will be on the agenda in April, but it was just, there's not enough time for this March meeting to touch on this.
Why did it not go in February?
We were not ready to bring it in February.
Pardon?
We were not ready to have this go forward in February. This will go forward in April, though.
We had a recommendation.
Sally, I'm sorry to interrupt. I believe with the February agenda, it was a shorter timeline for us to have our meetings and to publish the agenda. So sometimes with that tight deadline, it does delay when we can add something to the agenda.
They do meet,
Eric,
excuse me, but they do meet 2 weeks after we do. Your agendas typically come out really usually after 5 p.m. for us, after 5 p.m. on the Thursday prior to this meeting. So you've got the 7 days in there.
I understand
I think
that.
there was
And
plenty of time, and I'm sorry. I would appreciate it if you don't interrupt me
I'm
when
sorry,
I have the
wasn't
floor.
done talking, so my apologies for that, Sally.
This is obviously something that I feel very passionate about, and I have to explain. I don't have some project in my back pocket to bring forward to this committee at this time for scoring and for completion. We don't have anything as our I don't know that Parks has anything we haven't communicated about that. I don't even know if engineering has anything we haven't communicated about that. But I do feel very strongly that the governing board needs time to consider what we have asked, because we have been told at each point along the way that you can't support any type of a greenway project, anything basically outside of complete streets or safe streets type of project, because the goals and policies don't support it. And it's very true. If that's the case, and this came up, I think Michael Howe brought it up as a comprehensive planning person. Does the TPA, is that because that's their express wish, or did they adopt what they adopt without fully understanding the ramification to the projects? Because they very definitely supported the off-road network that we've already constructed to use Riverbend as a hub for tourism and join in these Jupiter Farms and Palm Beach Country Estates and the town of Jupiter, and it goes into the Mirasol and PGA National communities. That was supported by the MPO, now the TPA, and that's how that system was built. And I know there've been some discussions some time ago with West Palm Beach about possibly wanting to extend a trail to connect into that would, for instance, go outside their boundary. So it would be a staged sort of thing. And I would like to see this on the March agenda. Take forward our item, take forward the recommendation, let the committee look at it. They can decide to table it till next month if they have too much on their plate, but they will at least have a reasonable amount of time to start the process. Because we don't know. They may just decide at the March meeting, no, we want all of these other types of projects to be done before we spend any of our precious funds on something that's outside the urbanized area. But that needs to come from the governing board.
So Sally, before you're good on your comments then, so I can, okay. Chair, I do have that our executive director, Nick Uren, is on the line, as well as Jean has her hand raised. I don't know which you want to take first.
Let's have Nick. I think we'll have Nick Uren first, and then that may inform some of the other, may assist with some of the other members' comments. So Nick, if you could patch him through.
Chair, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm not sure that I have anything to say yet. I guess I want to understand the will of the committee as far as timing. Sally has expressed concerns that we're not addressing committee preferences in the way that we're preparing the TPA board agenda. If there's a motion that comes out of this, that would give us a little bit more clarity, and maybe I could respond to that.
Okay. Okay, then, Jean?
Okay, I certainly understand staff's concern trying to get it on the February meeting. And again, Sally, I apologize, but I know in this group that, after a couple hours, you really are not as open and receptive to new ideas. And I think that placing it on a less heavily populated agenda and moving it to April is a really good idea. The other thing is, I think we're going to be doing a presentation. Everybody, these are all mayors and things, and their time is very valuable. We should do a PowerPoint or a couple slides and try to keep the presentation to 3 to 5 minutes. I know I do a lot of grant presentations, and one of the things I always say, I fortunately get right before lunch always, and I'll say, hey, I'll get you guys to lunch. I'm going to be as brief as possible. And honestly, people will say thank you, and my projects rank really well because people realize how. So Sally, I'm sorry, I can't not support a motion to move this to the March agenda. I think placing knowing staff knows all the details in the background, and I can't support that.
Okay, Margie, who's next? Any other hands raised or?
I have Brian with his hand raised.
Okay, Brian, recognized.
Having being a board representative for multiple committees in Delray, I can sympathize that things don't always get prepared and done on time. But that being said, I think, we appointed you to be the representative for this ad hoc committee. And I would encourage, and I believe that we had discussed October being the date before, but if it's the will of the committee and it sounds like TPA staff are willing to present it earlier, that a motion could be placed to have Sally work with the TPA staff to place it on the agenda at the earliest possible convenience, recognizing the board's kind of heavier, hand in having to deal with those items. So that would be my suggestion and potential motion if there's support for it.
Okay.
Chair, I'm sorry. I do have Sally with her hand raised.
Okay, Sally.
A point of correction. No, we did not. This is part of what needs to be corrected in the minutes. I went back and listened to the entire long audio at the meeting. What I said at the meeting was that whatever is put in place needs to be in place by October or maybe by September, because October is when they have the workshop. September would be when you would need to have a final adoption of what is happening, to have it in place and to have potential applicants know that this is the type of project that would be considered, because that's new and a change. If they're going to look at their goals and policies and say, we agree, we don't have the stuff in here to support these changes, and they want to make those changes, that can't all come at one meeting. It's not fair. And I would simply point to how long it took us as a committee and then as an ad hoc committee to come up with something to even recommend to the TPA. So I do expect to see that corrected in the minutes. I actually have some time marks I could give you if you want to go back and listen to that whole painful audio, but that's why I'm bringing this up. And as far as having time to prepare, I was expecting this to go in February, Jean. It's now March, and we're talking about maybe it will go in April, unless something comes up that staff is not prepared. And the email that I have in response of why it's not going in March doesn't say because there's a really heavy agenda in March. It says because staff's not ready. That's a different thing.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm following my parliamentary procedures correctly. Did you have a motion? Was to have at the next meeting? Was that the motion? Kind of summarizing high level?
Yes, I do move that this presentation go on the March agenda for the TPA, and that would be our BitPack recommendation that we passed in February. That be communicated. Now, if necessary, we can send a letter to the TPA with the attachment of the revised scoring sheet, explaining to them that we understand, we've been explained to us that the current goals, objectives, and targets as documented in their long-range transportation plan, et cetera, won't support the changes in the scoring sheet. So basically, we want them to look at that and tell us. I mean, I would really appreciate direction from the governing board, say, cease and desist, don't spend any more time on this. we'll get back to you in another 5 or 10 years or whatever, or yes. And if they do want to have those projects considered and their plan doesn't support those, then they need time to figure out what do they want to do? Because this is the same thing as us. We didn't want to fiddle with the scoring sheet in a way that was going to score highly a poor project versus some of the very good complete street sorts of projects we've seen. And we were very concerned about making changes in that scoring sheet that would do that when you're trying to add something that's non-urban. And I would think that the governing board would have the same issues in any consideration with their strategic plan. They're not going to want to mess up what they have in there by making too rapid or unconsidered a change. Do you want me to repeat my motion?
Yes, I think, and let's see if there's a second, because I know Brian made another one, but I think we have, correct me if I'm wrong, we have to see if there's a second on your motion before we start on another motion.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
So
correct.
yeah, please repeat
He
your
can
motion.
offer a
Friendly amendment.
substitute, obviously.
So
I'd love to hear what he has to say. He's usually.
Would you, Sal, would you like to hear his substitute first, Sally? Is that okay?
Yes.
I
Okay.
just want to confirm with the TPA staff that would it be possible to make a presentation, since it seems like there's not agreement with the recommendations? Would you be able and ready to make a presentation to the board? And is that time enough for you to make your case? But in all fairness to the TPA.
March is not going to be long enough for us to get everything on the agenda and prepared in a presentation format. Just kidding. Yes, we can make March happen if needed.
Okay. I do not want to offer a substitute motion.
Margie,
I'm sorry.
I'll
point of
recognize
order.
Margie.
Sally, I do have a motion that I'm gonna put on the screen, if that works for you.
Okay, yeah, please do. And then I think we need to read it for everybody that's on just audio.
Let me make sure I share the right motion, not the one from the previous item. Okay, so I did generalize it, but if you want me to tweak it, I do have a motion to add the BT PAC's recommended changes to the 2022 transportation. I spelled alternatives wrong. I'm sorry. TA scoring system on the March TPA governing board agenda for review and discussion.
The key thing here is if all we were going to do is ask them to do that scoring sheet, which was half of what we passed in February, they would not need all of this time. The issue is really the second part of that recommendation, which is that we asked them to review their, and I'm going to get the words wrong, goals, objectives, and policies is what I'm used to, to include trails. That's the time part. They can look at a nice strike-through underline version of the scoring sheet, hear a presentation on how that would allow someone to get the minimal points to make it worthwhile to put an application. But the reason for doing it in March is to allow them adequate time, because we have said, if your goals and policies, if if it's not supported, then take a look at it, include trails, give us a clear statement one way or another. Very bottom of the priority list, we don't want to look at it now, or yeah, we need something in there that would support the changes in the scoring.
So Sally,
Let's
just
see.
to make it, okay, thank you for reviewing it.
It's to add the bit packs, what was it?
So-
Request, February 4th, request.
So you
Starting-
want to add the BT PACs February 4th.
February 4th request for the TPA to review whatever the language is there in there that's in our amendment. And I think it's goals, something and strategies
So,
and recommended changes to the scoring system.
so you're asking for the motion that you made at the February meeting to be made today again?
The motion is to add that request.
So,
The request had two parts to it. One was the scoring, one was looking at the goals. That was BitPAC's recommendation.
right, and
So-
that's why I had put BT PAC's recommended changes to the, but if you bear with me, I can go back and find that motion and put it on the screen.
Oh,
So if you
okay.
can bear with me.
Okay, yep, well,
Okay, here, I do have a summary. We voted to request the governing board review its goals, objectives, and targets to include trails and modify the transportation alternatives program scoring system.
As a reminder, you need to turn your microphone on if you want.
Oh, just what, has the March agenda been prepared for the committee, for the governing board?
I'm sorry, can you state that again?
Has the agenda been prepared for the governing board for March?
There is a draft agenda that we do prepare and share with our legal counsel and our chair. Okay, so Chair, if I did adjust it to add the language from the previous motion from the February meeting. So it is the motion to add the BT PAC February 4th motion to support the ad hoc committee recommendation for the changes to the 2022 TA scoring system with the replacement of trail hub to multiple trail intersection, and with a request that the TPA board reviews the goals, objectives, and targets to include trails on the March TPA governing board agenda. Is that correct?
I think you can shorten it to simply say that my motion is to add BitPAC's February 4th request to that the governing board review its goals, objectives, and targets to include trails and modify the transportation alternatives program scoring system on the TPA's March agenda.
Is this what you want? The motion to add the BT PAC February 4th request that the TPA governing board reviews the goals, objectives, and targets and the 2022 TA scoring system on the March TPA governing board agenda.
That's correct. Thank you.
Okay, so again, the motion on the floor is a motion to add the BT PAC's February 4th request that the governing board reviews the goals, objectives, and targets and the 2022 TA scoring system on the March TPA governing board agenda. I had a motion by a motion by Sally, and I need a second.
I guess it should be a to instead of an on.
I'm sorry.
Grammar geek, where it says it should be add, and then after system, it would be to instead of on.
Okay. So again, the motion on the floor is a motion to add the BT PAC's February 4th request that the governing board reviews the goals, objectives, and targets and the 2022 TA scoring system to the March TPA governing board agenda. And again, I had a motion by Sally, and I need a second.
is there a second?
Michael Owen, second.
Okay, the motion's seconded by Michael. Discussion. Any hands raised?
No, Chair, I do not see any hands raised.
Okay, there's no
And
hands
this will
raised.
require a roll call vote.
Okay, staff, can you confirm that you can meet the deadline? I thought I heard that earlier, but
Yes, we can meet the deadline as
okay.
requested.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Jean does have another item.
Okay.
No,
Jean, you're
just,
recognized.
you can meet the deadline, but will it put the agenda on over 2 hours? And where will it be on the agenda? Could it be moved kind of closer to the front so people are not leaving?
We will try and accommodate your requests as best as possible, but there are other action items that are required to be adopted in a timely manner. So we cannot make any promises, but we will do our best to reorganize the agenda as best as we can.
Thank
Sally has her hand raised.
Okay, Sally, you're recognized.
I think that the governing board can do whatever they want. I mean, they can table consideration, they can rearrange the agenda. The point is just that they know we're thinking about this, that BitPack is recognizing that what they're asking them to do is more than just go through something that would be bing and over in one meeting, because we are asking them to do it. So quite frankly, I don't care if the committee tables it or where they put it on the agenda. It will get in front of them the fact that we have made this recommendation, and they can then determine for themselves when they want to take it up, act, or whatever. And I'm comfortable with that. They're the electeds.
Okay, any additional discussion?
I see
Margie?
no other hands raised, Chair.
Okay, you said this will require a roll call?
Yes, so that there's a clear record of the votes.
Okay, being that there's no other discussion, let's call the question.
So Sally Channon,
Aye.
Eric Ferguson,
Aye.
Ted Goodenough,
No.
David Willock,
Aye.
Jean Matthews,
No.
Yash Nagal,
Aye.
Neil Wantz,
Aye.
Michael Owens,
Yes.
Craig Pinder,
Aye.
Ryan Harding,
Aye.
John Roach,
Aye.
Brian Rusher,
Aye.
Joanne Scaria,
Aye.
Joanna Peluso,
Aye.
Garrett Watson,
Yes.
and the Boca Raton Bicycle Club is still vacant, so they will be marked as absent from the vote. It passes, Chair.
Okay. All right, so we're on the 3A, information items, TPA Community Profiles Dashboard. James, let me know if I pronounce your name correctly. James Reinhardt, TPA Transit Coordinator, will present this item.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you. Yes, my name is James Reinhardt. I'm the new lead transit coordinator for the Palm Beach TPA. In recent years, the TPA has provided on their website a page that had community profiles for each community within Palm Beach County, and also the county districts as well. We have gone through through those PDFs and updated the information, but then also updated the platform from just a series of PDF documents into a dashboard format. And you can find that on our website at palmbeachtpa.org/profiles. And this is what the dashboard looks like. On the left-hand side, you'll see the municipalities and county districts listed out alphabetically. And the opening page on the left side, or on the right side, is the socioeconomic summary that's powered by a group that we are partnering with called My Sidewalk. And it will open up first with just a profile of Palm Beach County. If you scroll down, you will first see a map of the area that we're focusing on. And then below that will be key population, environmental justice population information, commuting data, as well as average distance travel, or average travel times and average travel distance for whatever the community or county district that is. And then education attainment, and then employment data as well. All of this is powered through the American Community Survey census data. And so if you we go back to the left side where the municipalities, if let's just click on Boynton Beach as an example, we click on them, it will refresh and go to a Boynton Beach summary that will look the same as the original one for Palm Beach County, just with their specific information for their jurisdiction. If you go up to the top of this profile, there's a download the PDF, so you can print this this report for to hand out amongst staff, or keep on file, or you can of course just go back to this dashboard and look at it as well. On the bottom of this window, there's a series of tabs that represent different maps that we've created for each jurisdiction as well. One is roadway ownership, so we can click on that one. And again, when you click on the jurisdiction on the left side, it will zoom to that jurisdiction location and has clipped information to that area. So there's roadway ownership information, total lanes, is the next one. Bicycle facilities, pedestrian facilities, the frequent transit network, as well as hubs of transit hubs, and also we've included Tri-Rail and then the Brightline corridor in there as well. And then the last tab is the 2021 to 2025 TIP projects map. That map is also available on our TPA GIS map on our website as well. This is just bringing it into this platform as well to be able to zoom into your community. And if we move my my screen up in the top right hand corner, you will see in the top right hand corner a couple different icons there. The first one is a search bar that you can type in your address and it will zoom to your home address location. The next one is a legend. There's a legend button for each one of the maps that will give you description of the information that's on the map. And the final one is just to change the aerial view if you would wish to change it from this gray background to an aerial or a streets map, or what I guess there's also some topography and terrain with labels as well. Yes, so this has been a new effort by the TPA to try to consolidate the efforts and also keep a more up-to-date version of those community profiles that we had done in the past. I guess the last thing I can say is if you want to refresh, if you want to move from one community to the next, you can go over where it says it's highlighted at Boynton Beach, and then let's just click on Atlantis, and then it will zoom to that location and start providing updated information about that location. And then if you want to refresh back to the county, you just click the highlighted community again, and it resets the map. And again, every single map and the socioeconomic summary will update every time you click on a different community or click back out to refresh to the county as the default. Are there any questions about this item?
Are there, I guess first, are there any public comments on this item?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any committee members have questions?
Oh, I'm sorry, turn my microphone off. I have Jean followed by Ted.
Okay.
Can you just click on the socioeconomic tab? I want to see what pulls up when you show that.
Sure.
Jean, did you have any questions about that? Okay, you just
Any
wanted to see
municipality? So
the
let's
information?
go back to Boynton Beach, just since we use that as our first example. So again, it'll show the map, and then as you scroll down, it'll have the same key data points, and just updates them based on the jurisdiction.
This is a great tool. Thank you.
Okay, Margie, any other comments?
I have Ted with his hand raised.
Okay, Ted.
Thank you. I'm just wondering if any of these maps have alternate text or some sort of description so that a screen reader would be able to identify what we're looking at.
So in the, I don't know the exact answer for that one, but I know if we go to, let's pick one of the maps. Let's go to the TIP projects map as an example, and just zoom in and click on a project. So in a pop-up window giving a description of the project will show up. So I don't know this if this dashboard works with a screen reader. I can try to find that answer out, but at least we have pop-up information so that it will show up and give descriptions of the projects or items that are on the map.
Just a comment on that. If it pops up, but it can't be read by a screen reader, then you've eliminated the blind population from viewing things.
And again, I will research and try to find that out as well.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Margie, any other comments from?
I don't see any other hands raised.
Okay, James, can you show how you get to the map initially from the TPA homepage? Because the link you gave us to profiles I was wondering how you get to it from the main page.
Sure. If on our website, you can either do one of two things. You can do TPA, the palmbeachtpa.org/profiles, and that will direct you straight to the map. If you go to our main page, and then in the search, there is a search bar. So if we go there. Apologize, it's decided to move a little slow when we had that request. And then, so find out in the search bar where it says find what you're looking for here, if you type in community profiles, and then click search, and then there's the page, and you can click on it, and it directs you to that location.
Yeah, I says a suggestion maybe on either. I think under plans and resources, you used to have links to the maps under that. And then you also have a map icon on the TPA website. I just think for people to remember another web address isn't necessarily another URL. Maybe if there's a way to get to it from the home page would be useful. So.
Sure, we can do that. Thank you.
Yeah, just a suggestion. Because there's a lot of good, you guys have really done a great job of compiling all this information. So, just, okay, any other committee member comments on this item, Margie?
I don't see any other hands raised, Chair.
Okay, so moving on, 3B, Florida Bicycle Month. Alyssa Frank will present this item.
Great. So, oh, I didn't do that. Okay. So I mentioned earlier this morning that March is Florida Bicycle Month. So we're going to go over some activities and such that are going on within this month. So first, we are, of course, encouraging our municipalities to have proclamations for Florida Bicycle Month. For 2021 so far, we have received and been informed that the municipalities on the screen are going to or have either executed or will be executing a proclamation. If you do not see your municipality on the screen, please let me know. I will reach out to them and I can send them a draft proclamation, which are also available on our website. This is a great thing to do to encourage people to get outside, bicycle safety, and it's something that, again, we are really just encouraging all of our municipalities to do. So we do have some on there, and we are, if you have not, like I said, please reach out to me. We are also encouraging municipalities to host Florida Bicycle Month events, obviously outside because social distancing and riding a bike. So a few that we have been informed about are, I know the one on the right side of the screen is kind of challenging to see, but that is the Tour de Lake Park, which is a 4-mile bike ride happening in Lake Park. The Village of Palm Springs is also hosting a bicycle rodeo and super duper fun day. If you guys are hosting or know of anyone in any of our municipalities hosting an event, please reach out to me and share information with me so we can advertise for it, put it on our calendar, or alternatively, visit our Walk Bike Palm Beach page and make sure that it gets on our calendar there, or both. So of course, this is our Walk Bike Palm Beach page. We also do have a calendar on there, and that calendar is filling up with Bike Month events. So that's what we want to see. We want to see more activities on there. And like I said, if you have any that you're aware of or planning in your municipality, please reach out to me and go to the website and make sure that it gets on that calendar. And of course, I did want to mention that we are actually going to be hosting a webinar series throughout the month of March for bicycling. So starting tomorrow on March 5th, I'm going to be hosting a relatively brief webinar on bicycle safety basics. This is going to be happening at 12 p.m. and registration is required for all of these through the Eventbrite link at the bottom, which we will also be sending out to all of our committee members. On March 19th, we are actually going to be having the president of the Florida Bicycle Association present virtually over Zoom about women in bicycling. And then on March 31st, we have John Poocher, who is the author of Cycling for Sustainable Cities, zoom in on a webinar for creating bicycle-friendly cities. So very exciting. And again, you can register for all of those webinars at tpabicyclewebinars.eventbrite.com, and we will be sending out those links later. And then, of course, our TPA Florida Bicycle Month ride. This is going to be on March 26th. We will be meeting at our office here at downtown West Palm at 7:45 in the morning. Kickstands up at 8 a.m. and we should be arriving back at our office at around 8:45 in the morning. It is just over 4-mile ride, but it's very nice facilities throughout it, and it'll be a pretty smooth ride. We are asking that if you are planning on participating in this, please RSVP to me or on the Eventbrite page, which is also linked on our Walk Bike Palm Beach website. When you RSVP, I will message you, reach out, ask what shirt size you are. We will be setting aside bright yellow 3 feet biking t-shirts so that we can all ride really bright in unison, just as a group. So please RSVP if you are planning on participating in that. And that is it for my presentation.
Alyssa, could you send out the information for the March 5th bicycle safety tip webinar? You might have already, but I didn't see it on the calendar. And so I'm trying to share it with my staff. So if you could get it out today, that would be appreciated.
Yeah, of course. I'm working on sending out an email at some point today with a list of everything for Florida Bicycle Month and registration links. So that way everyone can see it and not just have to reference a PowerPoint.
Muted. Were there any public comments on this, Margie?
No, Chair.
I didn't think so.
No, we didn't have any.
Okay. Any committee members have comments?
I don't see any hands raised.
Okay. Well, thank you, staff, for putting the events together. I think the webinars at lunch are a really good idea for some of us that are. I appreciate that it's at lunchtime for some of us that are really busy. That's good to see. Okay, moving on. Item 4, administrative items. 4A, summary points at the February 18th, 2021 governing board meeting. There's no information item only. There's no staff presentation on this item unless requested by a committee member. Staff, are there any public comments on 4A?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, any committee members have?
I see no hands raised.
Okay. Item 4B, FDOT scheduling report, March 2021. Again, information item only. No staff presentation on this item unless requested by a committee member. Does any committee member want a presentation on this item?
I see no hands raised, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Are there any public comments on this item?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay. 4C, our next meeting, our next BTPAC meeting is scheduled for April 8th, 2021. Thank you for your patience with us as we conducted this committee meeting today. At this time, our committee meeting is adjourned.